I just finished reading Montgomery Bonbon Murder at the Museum by Alistair Beckett King and illustrated by Claire Powell. I read it with my sister and we all really enjoyed it. Alistair Beckett King, or ABK, is a really talented author, comedian, and all-round polymath. He even uses Blender to make animations. Anyway, I noticed that a sequel is coming out soon, Montgomery Bonbon Death at the Lighthouse, so I decided to make this little fan animation. So after the initial sketch, I drew out the character on a bunch of layers. I then added an armature object, and in edit mode, I added the whole skeleton, making sure to name all the bones. One thing I did differently this time was I added extra bones to the limbs, so that I could add some cool wobbly shapes at the end. I then moved on to weight painting, which has always been a huge pain, but the recent blur and average tools in Grease Pencil were real lifesavers. At this point, I had the deformation rig, which is the bare minimum you need to make an animation. But it can be difficult, so at this point I like to add more functionality, and more importantly, I like to add different ways of interacting with the rig. This can mean switching between inverse kinematics and forward kinematics for the limbs, or this can mean the many different controls added to the flappy part of the coat. We have a regular chain of bones, then we can change this pose with these stretchy controls, and finally we can change the shape with these little bones along the edge. All these controls allowed me to easily make it look kind of flowy in the final animation. At one point I found that these sleeves wouldn't bend with the hand, so I tried to adjust the weights between the forearm bone and the hand bone, but this really didn't work. So I managed to add some tweaker bones, and I used my free Smart Bones add-on, link in the description, to add action constraints, so that the sleeves would automatically correct as the hand rotates. Finally, I added some custom bone shapes before moving on to animation. In the end, the rig has some pretty cool controls. We can stretch the torso around, we have some good flexibility in making facial expressions, we can turn on and off the hat and mustache, and even change the mouth shapes. We can flip the head and the entire character, and I knew it was going to be a lot of fun to animate. First, I made a cool walk cycle, like Montgomery Bonbon is putting clues together in their mind. I then made this animation too, because I was just having so much fun. I had a lot of fun rigging this character, and like many of you, I learned pretty much everything I know from free online resources. In actual fact, I've only ever paid for 3 courses in my life. All of these can be found at P2 Design, and I can wholeheartedly vouch for the quality of these courses. And I can tell you from personal experience that you will get a lot for what you pay for. With that said, I am proud to say that I am now an affiliate of P2 Design. So if you want to learn some really solid fundamental skills, and you want to support me, check out the link in the description. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you around.